My name's Harney, and I am a composer and a producer living in Bristol, and I'm making a sandwich. I guess I have a background in hip hop and jazz. Spent a long time kind of learning how to play jazz, trying to learn how to play jazz. I don't know if you ever really do. On the drums. And then yeah, really got into hip hop and jungle as a teenager, and then also songs, I suppose, soul music. That's really one of my main interests, and then also the way that music and dance fit together. So that's the easiest way that I can describe my music style. It's kind of, songs and productions written by a drummer who loves jazz and hip hop, particularly like free jazz. Yeah. I think that's definitely a big element of my style. I think is contrast in it. Sorry.
That's fine. Keep going.
Bread. Yeah, it's sense of, well, if it's been done before, I don't really want to make it. What's the point? Which means that I tend to end up with things which are not so mainstream, but they're more satisfying to me.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is, when I may have an idea of a sound, something that I want to express musically, or a project that needs to be worked on. I tend to think, well, what would be the furthest away element that I could bring in here, and reference, and still make it work. And that's probably something about my personality, and that and just if it's not difficult, I don't want to do it. So yeah, then in a way, I suppose, directly related to styles of music, that's kind of like, I tend to think quite often as a bit of a DJ, like when I'm producing. So I like the idea that I have, on one track I know that I've sampled a record and I've got Bill Bruford playing the drums, and then I've got the string section from Buddha Records, and I've got, so it's kind of like my own little orchestra that I've put together to make this one track of people that I'll never meet. And then if I'm listening to a piece of music and it sounds too straight down the line, then what would be the part of the world where this music would never have been heard before, and what would come in now? I like to have those kind of little stories. Or who'd the guy that could imagine coming in and playing bass? There's one track in particular that I was like, this is cool, but the bass line, it can't be a funky bass line. Who's like the least funky bass player in the world? And I thought Adam Clayton from U2, right? And he just sits there on stage playing mainly like one note bass lines in eighth notes. So that I imagined I was Adam Clayton. So it's like a soul track with a lovely soul vocalist, and yeah. I think that's everyone's particular style. I mean, I definitely don't think the way I do it is the right way. It's a really long-winded process. And the reason that I've ended up like that is just because I haven't ever been able to stop being either a drummer or a DJ or a producer. I just kind of do all of them, and certainly a part of being a DJ means you need to understand styles and how to move between styles, and I think have a healthy respect for the traditions of the music, but then also be able to push the boundaries. And do it in your own way, and I think that's the foundation of hip hop, really. Which is, as I say, that was my background as a teenager, was being really wanting to be a part of hip hop and the ethics that go along with that. And that was what inspired me. I suppose that was what kept me out of trouble and I was thinking about it the other day because I saw my friend Awkward, who was a big inspiration. We were at Ashton Court Festival, and I remember seeing him and all Bristol hip hop guys in Ashton Court Festival like 10, 12 years, no longer, 14 years ago or something, and just thinking, this is what I want to do. These are people just kind of being creative, and I think guys being creative all together, like in a crew.
Yeah.
That's the thing about hip hop that kind of got me, I suppose. And then and that's all about taking something and flipping it. You know, no, you don't get marks in hip hop for doing something that somebody's done before and just doing it better.
Yeah.
You've got to do it differently.
Yeah.
You know, that's it's all about being a style originator, and and a lot of styles do come from. Although in hip hop, there's a whole culture around biting. If you don't bite something, then you never learn. You bite it, but you don't show anyone that you've bitten it. So you take it and then twist it so that it's your own, and then people may be able to tell where it's come from. And I think you can't take something and twist it effectively unless you have a respect for where it's come from and you understand the fundamentals. Yeah. That's a long-winded answer to a very short question. Yeah, I mean, I have an interesting ongoing discussion with my wife about things that go together with cookery. In that I have a kind of what's the word? A country-specific attitude to cooking, which is, if I'm making a Thai dish, I want to use Thai, those ingredients, and have that as the side dish has to then be something that would be appropriate with a Thai dish. And until I really know what I'm doing, I like to cook Japanese food, and I've just started in the last sort of year or so experimenting, and so I make sushi with like broccoli and goat's cheese and stuff. Yeah. But it's been only since I've actually been able to understand the way that they balance the ingredients have I started to do that. So it's still Japanese cuisine or whatever, but it's my little flip on it. Whereas Tando, my wife, who's next door, probably listening, so I'm picking my words carefully, has a far more eclectic approach. So she'll happily have a curry, or a stir fry with poppadoms next to it. Right. Now, to me, I get, what are you doing? What are you doing? Which is, again, just a quirk of my personality, I suppose, and a part of my style, but it's definitely not right or wrong. So I think, in terms of fusion, that's like fusion cookery. Yeah. It can be like having a vindaloo with a scoop of ice cream on the side, which is horrible. Yeah. So it is about, I suppose there's ways to do it which are fresh and appropriate, and there's ways to do it which are just whack. In a way, I wish that I could just find one style. I mean, if you listen to my album, have I sent you my album?
No.
It's out on the 29th of October, people.
Great.
And actually, every track you could go through it, and I can say, well, this track's like a kind of, it's like a new soul thing, but I didn't want to, the beat has got more of a kind of like a one-drop reggae thing going on, and actually the sounds that I've used on top are more kind of the kind of bleepier side of hip-hop, and then there's a kind of traditional old soul vocal in there, and then the harmony that I've used is blues, but it's chromatic in the kind of cadence. So every single element has something, and I could go through every single track and go, this is the style that I've taken, and then I didn't want it to just be that, so it's got this and this. So in a way, I don't know if I'd call my style fusion or what I would call it, but it's almost like all that I do. I'm not a purist. Yeah. But I suppose I'm then very rigorous about what gets in and what doesn't. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you don't have a template. There's nothing. Yeah. If I mean, there are obviously precedents for how things have been fused in the past. So yeah, now now certainly. I mean, you see trends in cookery, and you see it in the restaurants and stuff around Bristol. Cause I know quite a few chefs and work in sort of bars and clubs when I'm out playing, and you see things on the menu, and then one year it's, oh, now everything is, you know, roasted goat's cheese tartlet with caramelized onion, and now everyone in the whole city has caramelized onion, along with everything else in it. No, not the whole time, but. You know, so people get ideas from other people and say, oh, that's a cool fusion, so that's in now.
Yeah.
So that's a way around it. But generally speaking, if you're really experimenting, then yeah, the problem is that there's no map with it, other than your own particular creative strategies that you would employ to get the sound that you're after. Within music, you can go and see a DJ. Like I can go see a DJ like Theo Parrish, and I know that he's going to play 30 different genres of music, and everyone's going to dance, you know, for 4 hours. Yeah. Because he knows what he's doing, so he can put it together in that way, in a consistent flow. Yeah. And then, you know, and then you can go see another DJ, like, you know, if I go and see somebody like Pinch or Joker, I know what I'm going to get. They do one thing, they do it really well. They don't. There's influences and there's mixes. As I say, I'm not sure I'd describe my style overall as fusion. I suppose it's an element of what I do, but what I find is kind of smashing things together is I discover angles and intricacies within a sound that are pleasing to me, you know, and that I want to share with other people. Yeah. And I kind of feel like I need to do that musically. I don't. Every now and again something comes out and it's fully formed and whatever, but most often I find myself smashing things together, pulling them apart, you know, because I want to show people things from different angles, because I think that's part of. I suppose that's just part of what I find interesting about art. When I can listen to something or see something, and then it changes my worldview. And I learn something about myself as a result, or I see the world differently as a result. So I think that's a potential benefit of the fusion approach.